Welcome to the real Ramblers movie talk for fanatics. The real Ramblers movie talk for fanatics. And now your hosts, Bill and Lee Howard.
It's a long road when you're on your own. Dan Hill.
I knew immediately you were going to start singing that song.
Welcome to the Real Ramblers, everybody. So I don't like Dan Hill at all, but that song.
Oh, funny. I didn't even know who sang it. I just know that song.
Dan Hill's just one of those 80s bad adult contemporary.
Oh, shit. Okay.
But that song, man.
And that's it. It's iconic.
Today we're talking about Rambo.
Yeah.
John J.
Rambo.
That's pretty good.
Hey, we got like 5 movies to talk about over here.
Yeah. So Rambo's.
Yeah.
So the novel by David Morrell, which is a fantastic novel, a really tight thriller, which would have been right at the end of the Vietnam War, so it would have still been a current affair.
Yeah.
But really great novel, turned into the film First Blood in 1982. Sly apparently had a lot of input into the script.
Right.
In the novel, Rambo's brutal. He kills a lot of people.
Oh, okay.
Like kills.
I only know one thing of the difference between the novel and the movie, and that I know he dies in the novel.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's basically, I've not read it. So
yeah, there's differences character-wise too. Will Teasel is like a short, fat guy, sheriff.
Okay. Brian Dennehy's? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Brian Dennehy's character, which obviously he is not short.
No. He's
he's intimidating.
Dude. Yeah.
So there's those changes, and they also made him more sympathetic by not killing people. Like he randomly kills like innocent people in the novel. Like
so he's like really messed
unhinged
up in the novel. Okay.
Yeah. So different vibes between the book but I mean the heart of the novel is definitely captured in the film by Ted Kotcheff, who directed a lot of, he directed Weekend at Bernie's.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah. And a great 80s action flick called Uncommon Valor with Gene Hackman.
Oh, right, I remember.
Really great. It's about his son is a POW.
Okay.
So he gathers a bunch of other soldiers and they go back to Vietnam on their own to try and find his son. Great movie. But Ted Kotcheff, great director. Did a lot of TV as well, I think. And First Blood... For me, we're looking at the poster right now. I have a poster in my
podcast viewers. Look to your left and look at the poster.
It is. To your right if you're sitting on my side.
That's true.
But First Blood to me is one of the few perfect movies. I don't think there's a millisecond of it I would change.
I rewatched it probably 6 months ago, just randomly. I was looking for something to put on while I was working.
Yeah.
Scrolling whatever Prime or
probably
whatever
2 or 3 times a year I get the itch.
Oh, nice.
Sit down with it.
It had been years since I had watched it.
Right.
Yeah, I'd forgot a lot about it. Kind of like thematically I knew what it was about, but I just forgot. I just kind of forgot what it was really about. And it's like, it is a really simple story.
Yeah.
But it says a lot about and it's like, I don't know anything about history. I'm a fucking idiot. Like I can talk to you about Teen Wolf and the Crow, but it's like historically and like political events and stuff I don't know much about.
Yeah.
But obviously that, especially with the Vietnam War and the novel and of course the movie, I mean, that's the whole thing of it is how like soldiers who came back from that war were treated in America. Which I guess was not good, which is a crazy thing. Like they seem very, and I don't know if this is generalizing or whatever. I don't know. I'm from Canada, but it seems very like, yes, soldiers go to war. You are a hero. And then when they come back, they're like, we don't give a fuck about you anymore.
Then you're like baby killers.
Yeah.
It was a very controversial war. That's for sure.
Everything I know about like history or anything like that is only from movies.
Yeah.
And I barely remember movies. So
no, it's powerful, and it's funny that when people look back at Sly's career, he's done a lot of great stuff. And I think acting-wise, people always go back to Copland and to Rocky, the original Rocky.
Right.
Which are both, of course, deserving of their credit. But for me, I think his best performance is First Blood.
He's really good at it.
It's heavy.
It is, yeah.
And it opens with him being a dude that's kind of like trying to figure out where he fits into society.
Yeah, like
but not. It doesn't seem like he's a negative or angsty dude.
No, not at all.
He's just looking up his buddies.
He wants
to reconnect to somebody.
Yep. Yeah. He's very lost and doesn't know where he belongs and doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere. Yeah. And I think this is also a time, especially because what was it, like 72 or so?
72 was the novel, 82 is the movie.
80. Oh, yeah, of course, 82. But even anyway, back then, it's like what we now know as like extreme PTSD. Yeah. I feel like back then they were just like, he's shell shocked. You know, it's like mental health stuff was not fully understood, I don't think, back then. It's, you know, now, well, not that we treat it perfect now. We just understand it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like back then, he's literally just trying to like live his life.
Yeah.
In his country. And I mean, we see what happens with Brian Dennehy. Like immediately, the scenes, and he's not even doing anything.
The scenes of him encountering Teasel, Brian Dennehy's character, are so that I think that's why the movie also feels timeless. You watch it now and you don't even notice that there's no cell phones or anything because it seems like it could just be a small town now.
Yeah, for sure.
And his treatment is something current too.
Yeah.
Like except now it would maybe be more religion or racial based.
Yeah.
But Teasel is immediately like literally Rambo's like, I just want to have lunch. Like,
he's just walking through a small town.
And Teasel's like, you can't eat in my town.
I know. Yeah.
He's like, there's another town 10 miles down the road. Go to that town.
Yeah.
And he picks him up and he drives him there and he drops him off. And when he's on that bridge and John Rambo's just like, fuck.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck that.
Yeah. Like literally, I just want lunch.
Yeah. And he turns around and goes back into the town. And Teasel's like, nope, not in my town, and arrests him for vagrancy.
Yeah. Which is insane. And it's like Rambo doesn't even start out being like, he's not bad mouthing him he's just like literally like couldn't be more like, I'm just trying to get some lunch.
He literally says to him at one point, he's like, what's your problem with me?
Yeah.
And Dennehy's character is just like, you know, look at you. You have long hair, you're dirty, you need a shower. Like he's basically like, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Without even knowing who he is, where he's been, what he's done.
Anything, literally anything, yeah.
So he's arrested and taken to the station, and all the other cops treat him like shit.
David Caruso,
who is great in it.
Yeah. A little string bean.
Total string bean.
Redhead, yeah.
And not at all with the like attitude that Caruso gets later. But
no.
Then they attempt to shave him after like bathing him with a shower, with a
hose.
Fire hose.
Yeah.
And that triggers his PTSD.
Yeah, the flashbacks.
He flips out, takes out the entire police station, and goes on the run.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie is basically about them trying to capture him and him being far too smart.
Oh, yeah.
And on his own territory.
Yeah.
To know how to stop them all.
Yeah.
And so in the movie version, he doesn't kill them. He sets traps and wounds everybody.
Right. That's right. Okay. I forgot.
The only one he kills is that fucking asshole deputy that's in the chopper.
Oh,
because he throws a rock.
Right, he chucks a rock,
and that guy's shooting at him.
Yeah,
like he's literally done nothing except flee.
Yeah,
that's all he's done at that point.
That's right.
And then Rambo throws a rock. It hits the chopper. The pilot goes like, whoa, and makes the chopper move, and the guy falls out.
So it's not even like he was necessarily like setting out to kill a guy. It was kind of just like please leave me alone.
And just before
don't shoot at me.
Yeah, and there's a scene after that where they're chasing him down and they're up on the ridge and Rambo's down at the river, and Rambo comes out to surrender.
Right.
And he's like, I didn't do anything. Do anything. And somebody takes a shot at him.
Right.
So he runs back into the woods.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many chances to not escalate this has the police department had?
Yeah.
And you didn't take any of them.
Yeah, it's insane. It was...
So then it ends up with, they bring in his commanding officer, Colonel Troutman, played brilliantly by the
Richard Crenna,
overactor genius. I love his style of overacting, though.
Yeah,
and I love, okay, you guys can't see my impersonation, but I love that he's totally like, you had your chance, Teasel. You didn't take it. And he moves his head every time he says a word.
It's like he has to like throw the words out of his mouth. So that's why he turns his head.
But it's brilliant. I love it. I love Troutman. And then by the end, Troutman tries to go in and settle things, and they end up peacefully arresting him after Sly gives this brilliant monologue.
Right.
About how he just wants to live without getting harassed.
Yeah.
And about the horrors he saw. He talks about a friend of his who tries to get a shoe shine in Vietnam and the shoe shine box is rigged and it blows him. And he's talking about how he's got pieces of his buddy all over.
Right. And
it's
really heavy shit.
Really heavy. Yeah. That monologue is heavy and Sly sells it.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason I think it's his best performance is the realistic angst and tortured soul that comes out of that monologue is brilliant.
Yeah.
And aside from the heavy themes, it's one of the best adventure action thrillers I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's like a drama disguised as an action movie. Because it's not just like,
but it has great action.
But it does still have great action.
Like when all the cops go into the woods to try and find him, and they set the dogs on him, and he kills both dogs.
Oh no!
And
just go to doesthedogguy.com.
Yeah, and then the army reserves are called in, and they blow up the mine he's in, but he gets out, and the rats are all over him.
Oh yeah,
and then he hijacks a truck and takes the big M60 that he tears the town apart with. By the way, the town is Hope. In the film, it says Hope. The town's called Hope, but they're portraying it as being in the northwest of the states, and it's actually Hope, BC.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense.
That's actually the name of the real town.
Oh, wow, neat.
And they still, if you go to Hope now, they have Rambo tours.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they have a yearly festival day that's like a Rambo day and everything.
Wow, that's so crazy.
I've always said to Joanne that I want to move there and be the guy that's in charge of the tours.
That's your job.
I would love that.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
That's my dream retirement.
Please dress up as Rambo.
That would be awesome. Yeah. And they just put up, somebody there did wood carvings of Rambo and of Teasel, and they're up in the town.
Oh, wow. Crazy. Cool. I hope people throw like garbage at the Brian Dennehy one. Like, you fucking piece of shit. Tomato.
That's the funny thing is, Brian Dennehy also one of the great character actors.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, look at this film and then look at Tommy Boy.
I know.
Like, the dude can play anything.
Totally, yeah.
He's also got a great early 90s thriller called The Last of the Finest that's great. He has a great thriller with James Woods called Bestseller.
I remember, I feel like you had the poster for Bestseller.
I had a standee.
Oh, a standee? That's what it was. So funny. Okay.
Everything in that movie is brilliant. The staging of the action scenes is brilliant. The emotional weight to it is brilliant.
Yeah.
For me, it's a perfect movie.
Yeah, it's great. So moving along. So then we moved to 1980. First Blood was a hit. So 3 years later, they come out with Rambo First Blood Part 2. Right.
They decide, let's take it in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And let's introduce the world to 1980s over-the-top action.
One-man army.
Action.
Which is like just a genre to itself.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I've talked before about character betrayal, and to a certain degree, it is.
Right.
Because it takes the realism out of the character of John Rambo.
Yeah. From here on, they become different thing.
But I think the brilliance of Sly is, anyway, I see it, that underneath the silliness, and I'm not saying silliness by bad, because I love Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's super fun.
Yeah, it's an 80s action movie. It's one of the staples of 80s action.
Yeah. And James Cameron co-wrote.
Like one of the original drafts, I wrote that because I read about that, and it originally had a wisecracking sidekick, and John Travolta was going to be that thing, and then I think it was like Sly was like, yeah, I think we're going to take that out. I don't think it's going to work for this.
And thank God they did.
Yeah, that would have been really weird.
I like the way it turned out. It was, and obviously audiences did as well, because it was a really enormous hit.
This one I just rewatched.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what did you think about it looking back at it now?
My some of the notes I wrote down is that it actually takes quite a bit of the movie to get into the action.
Yeah.
Like they're building, which is cool. And I was like, Kreese from Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Like I forgot a lot about this movie.
Yeah.
When when Troutman, I'll talk about him at some point, maybe in part 3, because he is really like he is Dr. Frankenstein kind of, and Rambo is the monster to a degree.
Yeah.
So when they brought him, when he convinces him like, hey, like let's go do this mission or whatever, And they bring him to that kind of like base or whatever, where that, I don't remember that actor that he's in a lot of 80s movies. The guy who's kind of like the main commander.
Like CIA guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get his name.
I just immediately remembered the ending of the movie all of a sudden, because it's like just that again is a classic 80s thing, like a guy with a gun and no shirt on. Yeah. Like just it was
UHF.
Oh yeah, UHF parodied that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Charles Napier, Murdoch.
Charles. Oh yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I remembered because I didn't at first remember much about the movie, and then as it was playing, I was like, oh shit, like all these memories, because I must have watched it several times as a kid when it came out. So even at first, I'm like, is this one of those things where it's like my memories betraying me, or that fucking thing of like where people think they remember one thing? So I'm like, he has a black headband. I thought it was red. And then later in the movie, it's like, oh, there's the red headband.
Because he gets it from the girl.
Yeah.
She was great.
She was great. Yeah. Like I forgot that she was even in the movie.
Yeah. And it had those great moments, like when he says he's expendable and she tells him he's not. Like it was a nice tender little moment.
Yeah, I did like that. Yeah.
He comments on her jade necklace and she's like, this is for
like luck.
For luck. And what do you have for luck? And he goes, I don't know, maybe this. And takes out his knife. And it was like,
like forever known as like knives like that. People just call them a Rambo knife.
It's a Rambo knife.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just, I just forgot a lot about it. Supposedly, Dolph Lundgren was cast as like the Russian bad guy.
Oh, really?
And then Stallone, because I guess they were like maybe prepping Rocky IV at the time. And then they're like, he's going to be the Russian in that. And Sly was like, oh, like we can't.
The same bad guy.
Yeah, so he still, I think, I could be wrong on this. He still got paid, I think, for Rambo 2.
Right.
But they were like, we can't have you as the Russian bad guy in both of these Sylvester Stallone movies. So
that would have been cool.
They got, I could see it, but maybe better that they got the guy they did who was like a little older and stuff.
Yeah. And he was good. He always plays villains and he was great.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, the movie itself was like just a simple kind of story or whatever,
Yep.
And because wasn't it like we still have guys, Americans over in Vietnam, but we just want you to go to take photos
and document it
and just document it. But then it's like, again, he got kind of screwed over by his government again, because
see that scene. See, this is a silly movie, but that scene where he finds them and he's like, I've got to get them out, and they get up on that hill and the chopper's coming and the chopper's 30 feet away from them.
Right.
And then Murdoch is like, come back home, leave them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you fucking left them again.
Yeah.
Like that scene's pretty heavy in a silly movie.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Cause there was even like, I mean, at the end of the movie, I think it was at the end of this one where when he's talking to Troutman and he's just like, I want what like all these guys want. I want to be able to go back to like my home. I want America to love me as much as I love America.
Yeah.
Because it's like, they turn their back on him again, like his own government or whatever. And it was just, and I think that's some of the stuff that was missing in the original drafts that Stallone wanted to kind of put back in.
Yeah.
So it was just like a fun.
And the funny thing is, a lot of people remember Rambo as being an America rah-rah movie, and it's not.
No, certainly like
all the American government people in it are shit.
They're the bad guys.
Yeah. They're pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And the company treats everybody, the country treats everybody like shit.
Yeah. I can't remember why they were like, they sent him there.
I don't remember the reason either.
I kind of forget that. I know I just rewatched
all
it.
Along to not rescue anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was like, that part is the part where I was like,
And then so they capture him and they torture him and stuff, and then they get him to call.
Right. Oh, right. That's right.
And then he says, I want to talk to Murdoch, and they get Murdoch on, and then he goes, hey, Rambo, glad to hear from you.
Yeah.
Glad you're okay. And then they have that great 80s thing where Stallone grabs the microphone and they have a sound effect for his hand tightening.
Really?
It goes like,
like leather. Like,
and then he goes, Murdoch, I'm coming for you.
That's right.
And
he's like, oh.
And everybody in 1985 was like, that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. He's going
Even the poster was ridiculous of him holding a rocket launcher wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, I always remember that. It's like, it's like how like action figures hold toys where they don't hold the guns correctly. They hold them as if they're presenting them to you. Here, take this.
But anyway, I love part 2 for what it is.
Yeah, it's got some like good stuff in there.
And it defined the 80s action.
Very, very much so. I mean, Rambo really became like iconic with Rambo 2, I feel like.
Huge. So then 3 years later, inevitably, since that was such a gigantic hit, they were like, well, we got to do another one. So Rambo 3 comes along. Rambo 3 gets shit on a lot.
Right.
And I don't really know why. Like a lot of it is because he's fighting alongside Afghanistan in it.
Right.
Which
yeah.
Afghanistan would, of course, later in history become not so friendly.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that because it's like there was like Russian troops in Afghanistan at the time. Again, everything I know about history is from fucking movies.
From
so
Rambo.
If I get anything wrong, anybody, it's because I'm stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was like because that conflict was going on as they were making this movie.
Yeah.
But it resolved before the movie was released.
That's right.
So it seemed like that's why people were like, eh. And then I think the end of the movie is even like, this is dedicated to the Afghani fighters and stuff like that. So it's like in over time and stuff, it's just like, oh, I don't know if this is
the
like,
themes didn't age well.
Yeah.
But those aside.
Yeah, like real world stuff aside.
Yeah, real world stuff aside. He didn't want to go on this mission and he ended up going because Troutman gets captured.
Right. Yeah.
This is the movie that has Troutman in it the most.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I was like, how old is Troutman? Should he be going on missions? Like this guy should maybe be behind a desk somewhere because like he looks like a solid 65 years old.
Yeah,
Why are you going on like field missions?
But that stuff aside. One, I think it's super fun. Two, there's more character stuff in this one.
Rambo's like quippy in this one.
Yeah, he is very.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like he seemed like a different character almost. Yeah, he is lighter.
And he's got the super long,
like a real mullet. Yeah.
But he looked great. And it was probably his hugest.
He was giant.
He was gigantic in it.
Yeah.
But the guy who plays his Afghani,
like his buddy or whatever.
Sidekick, that guy was great.
He was great. Yeah, that dude was great.
He was a really good actor. And he was funny. And their chemistry was great.
Yeah, totally.
And then when the action starts.
That kid too.
Yeah, the kid was great too.
Yeah.
And then when the action starts against the Russian, the action is bonkers.
It really is.
Like it's really the napalm in the caves. And the bow and arrow stuff in the caves.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Fucking
At
great.
the time, it was the most expensive movie ever made.
Wow.
$63 million.
Didn't know
which
that.
Like now is like, that's a low budget indie.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was the most expensive.
Didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
But super fun. I really enjoy 3.
I barely remembered anything about this movie when I rewatched it. I think I was really fucking tired, so I might have missed some of the ending.
It opened with the Thai stick fighting scene.
The stick fighting scene.
Which was great.
Yeah, that was the only thing I remembered because they also parodied it in Hot Shots Part 2.
And it had great 80s super amplified sound effects.
Oh, that I noticed.
Like
as
every time a stick hit a guy, it was like it was so loud.
It was insane. Kurtwood Smith is in this.
Yeah.
Which I was like, hey,
it was
Red
great.
Foreman.
Yeah.
Yeah, the original
Clarence Bodiger.
Yes.
Yeah.
The original director left because of creative differences, apparently.
Didn't know that.
And they lost 3 cinematographers.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think it was like a troubled set as well. I was like, oh, that's pretty fucking crazy.
It's not the best Rambo movie, but I mean, I still really enjoy it. And I actually rewatch it every once in a while. I think there's a lot of fun to be had in it.
I think Stallone likes this one more than 2 because in some interview he said he thought 2 was like a little bit like a cartoon.
Yeah.
But
and there's still one-man army stuff in this where
absolutely.
he like shoots his gun at a ridge and 9 guys go down.
Yeah. It's exactly like in UHF.
Yeah.
Where it's like 20 guys in a lineup.
Yeah.
And he just goes.
But it has great stuff. The stuff with the helicopters is cool.
It's like it has
all
like
the bow and arrow
action,
stuff
really
is
big
great.
action.
Yeah. It's got some cool Rambo stuff.
What else did I write? The only thing I remembered from this movie was the part where because he had got that stick through his fucking side,
and that effect is brilliant.
It's I'm still like, how do they do that? Like,
they must have had to have built an extension onto him, but it doesn't look like there's one.
For people that don't know, so at one
natural.
point his side gets like impaled by a stick or something like that, big thing.
Yeah.
So he
like wood shrapnel.
Yeah, like a long piece. So it's like he breaks off the ends, and it's gross because he sticks his thumb in the hole in his back to push it out, to take it out, and then he has a bullet, and he takes the top off the bullet and puts bullet bullet powder. Bullet powder. That's a new you take that before you go to the gym. Fucking bulk up the bullet powder. Wash it down with gun butter. It's a drink. So he puts bullet powder in his holes, in his side holes,
in his wound.
In his wound. Thank you. His holes. He puts it in his butt, and then he just lights it, and his side goes like fire shoots out the front,
cauterizes it.
Yeah, and cauterizes it.
But the effect is great.
It's awesome. I'm like, how the fuck did they do that?
Same with In First Blood, when he falls through the trees and has to sew up his arm.
It looks so real.
So real.
Really.
And as he's putting the needle in, more blood comes out.
I always noticed that.
So
I was
real.
like, I don't know who did the effects on that, but good job.
Yeah, brilliant. And there's the great scene where he plays the Afghanistan people have that game they play on horses.
On horses, yeah.
And he plays with them. That scene's great too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like looking at it as just a movie and stuff, it's just like a fine action movie or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess the original ending had him stay with those fighters to live there. Because he's like, their war's over, my war's over, I'm going to stay here. And then they switched it up, obviously.
I like the food.
Yeah. And then this movie ends with a song by Frank Stallone.
Good old Frank Stallone. God bless him.
Yeah. He's like, can I do something
it's
in the movie?
It's an improvement over Dan Hill.
I guess. I don't remember what the song was, but I just thought it was funny. There was a Frank Stallone one.
That is funny.
So, Rambo 3.
Frank Stallone has quite a musical career, actually.
Does he really?
He's had albums, he tours.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you, Frank.
He's like a Sinatra.
Oh, that's so crazy. I had no idea. So, yeah, it's like it is one that is people kind of shit on or forget about. But it's like, it was fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, this is amazing. But I wasn't like, what a piece of shit.
I've always had a fondness for it.
Yeah. It's like it does start like getting cartoony level violence in a way of the way 80s action
but
did.
Not as cartoony as the one before it. I think it's enjoyable.
It's like, and then we get to Rambo 4.
Okay. So Rambo 4, 10 years pass.
Yes.
So this one gets some flack as well. But so this one is some aid workers ask him to take them into Burma.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, a hell on earth, Burma. And he says no.
Right.
And then they get captured, and then he's asked to go and rescue them.
Yeah, because he's supposed to take take these other fighters, like, we'll take them, they're going to go get.
Yeah.
And then he follows them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Burmese army is portrayed fairly accurately in this, and they're horrible monsters.
Okay.
Like the atrocities that I think there's a scene of them throwing like a baby in a fire.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's horrible.
That's crazy. All right.
So they really amped up the violence and the blood in this one.
It's
insane.
This is like the action movie equivalent to what Terrifier is to horror movies.
Yeah. Or it's like Human Centipede or something.
It's when I first saw this, I think I saw it in the theater, and it's like, everyone always remembers that scene of him with the gun in the back of the car, and he shoots the guy in the driver's seat, and it's like, I feel like I'd never seen...
It's like a water balloon.
It really is.
Yeah.
It was, he's literally... chopping guys' bodies in half.
And you really hate the villains because they play that game with their prisoners where they make them go across that that
landmine field or whatever.
It's like underwater. It's like
right.
And they make them go across it to get something, and they all blow up, and they're all like ah ha ha, and they enjoy watching them blow up. So they really set it up that you're like, yes, I really want to see Rambo destroy these psychos.
And it's funny when I was reading about it because it's like Stallone wanted to set it there. Because he's like, it was like real world events happening there. Yeah. But again, I don't know anything about the real world. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, is this a thing? Like, I'm so ignorant to this stuff.
And then Julie Benz from Buffy was the...
she was like one of the missionaries.
The main missionary characters. And she was great in it.
This is the only one that Sly directed.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Yeah.
I thought for some bizarre reason, I was certain this movie was called John Rambo.
It was originally.
Okay.
But it was never released as that.
Oh, fuck. I thought, again, it's that thing that I'm forgetting. What is that? Where people think that...
The Mandela effect?
Mandela effect, yeah. Thank you. So I was like,
no, it was originally called John Rambo. And then they released a director's cut, an extended cut on Blu-ray, and I think they were going to call that John Rambo and then didn't.
Oh, okay.
So there's been a couple instances of they were going to call it that.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, you're right. That wasn't a Mandela.
Okay, go.
But I dig it. I think it's a solid action movie. It's great to watch for that insane gore because it's really well done.
Oh yeah, it's and
it's crazy over the top.
Yeah,
and his knife in it is like basically a sharpened
Excalibur.
Yeah, it's like a sharpened hatchet.
Yeah,
helicopter blade or something.
Essentially,
it's massive, and he does crazy. The one guy he disembowels with it.
Oh my God, for real? Yeah, he just spills his guts.
The camera just holds still as you watch his guts falling out of his body.
It was insanity. Yeah. I read this thing that there was two original script ideas.
Yeah.
And one of them was Rambo had a wife and kids, and his family was kidnapped by white supremacists.
I remember hearing about that too.
And then the other idea was that he stops a hostage situation at the UN where he is working as a diplomat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they must have been like, we want to do like a Die Hardy kind of thing or something. I don't know. But then
interesting, could be branches. It would have been interesting to see what they did with the character.
Yeah. I feel like Stallone
because I love the character.
More...
I think the fact that First Blood is so good informs the sequels because I still see that Rambo, even though I'm watching a silly movie.
Right.
I still see
in this
what he was in any of them.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I always see that original First Blood John Rambo when I'm watching them. So I think that makes me like them more because I know who and they never really, even when things get silly, they never really betray who John Rambo is.
Right.
He always still wants to do the right thing and stop people who are doing shitty stuff.
Yeah.
And
I was like, because this is one of the ones I have seen it. It's been a while, and I ran out of time, but I watched like a bunch of kind of recaps on YouTube to refresh.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was like, did he really need to get in there though? But I'm like, a part of who he is, I guess, as a character is that it's like, he can never get the war out of him.
Yeah.
I feel like, it's like, I feel like he doesn't really know what his purpose is unless he's like, blowing guys up and shooting arrows.
It's kind of like, to me, it's the equivalent of like Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon, that he has that conversation with Murtaugh at his truck and he says, it's all I was ever good at.
Yeah.
And Murtaugh's like, what? And he goes, killing people. He's like, I made this shot in Vietnam that was like he says maybe 4 or 5 people in the world could have made that shot. And he goes, it's the only thing I was ever good at. And I see Rambo's the same way.
Yeah.
It's he was turned into a killing machine for the purpose of war, and then he couldn't let it go. Yeah.
That was what I was going to say with Troutman when he had the conversation with him in the last movie where he's like, he tries to explain it like how a sculptor, has a big square brick of fucking whatever marble. And it's like, he chisels it away and there's like a statue in the middle. And he's like, the statue is like always there. It's, you know what I mean? And he's kind of like, in a way, it's a weird way of being like, oh, you've just always been a killer. It's always been in there, Rambo.
Troutman's
but it's like
a bit of an asshole.
Yeah, Troutman, you fucking made this guy. Every bit of PTSD and trauma.
You made him and then exploited him.
Exactly.
On multiple occasions.
So much so, yeah. So it is
he's not a good guy.
No. And I think it's funny because way back in the day, maybe people looked at him like a piece of shit back then or like a not great guy.
But it's probably because they made Troutman into what he was.
I suppose,
the army or the government or whoever.
Yeah.
He kept going back to it too. So that's all he knew as well.
I suppose, yeah.
But yeah,
just
crazy.
But
anyway, Rambo from 2008 is it's a different animal.
It really is, yeah. It feels very different.
It looks different,
but it also still feels like a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And then we get to Rambo: Last Blood, which again got panned huge, and I don't know, I didn't really get it. I liked it.
I didn't love it.
No,
I don't know.
I liked it.
It didn't. I don't know.
So it's basically about he's settled. He has a farm, and they never really say what the woman is to him.
Yeah.
She just kind of...
She lives with... She's help... Oh, sorry. I was going to say real quick about 4. Mm-hmm. For me, it ended perfectly and they could have left the series.
Oh, him going back.
He went back to the farm. They played the song again.
Yeah.
And it was like that to...
It's a long road when you...
Perfect. Nailed it.
See, nailed it that time.
End of the Real Ramblers.
Now the audience is happy because they finally got that.
Exactly. They got completion.
Yeah.
That sounded weird. They I feel like they really could have and should have ended it there. I think that was Rambo's.
I think so too.
I think that was he's home.
Yeah.
That's his dad's farm.
I agree.
And he got his thing. So you were talking about Rambo 5 and you really liked it. And yeah.
Most people didn't.
Right.
I think David Morrell, the author of the original novel,
he didn't
like it at all.
No.
And I get it. Yeah. I totally, it's not a movie where I'm like, I loved it and I don't get why nobody, I get it. I get why people didn't like it. The story is this woman that he's with also has a daughter or a niece. She goes to Mexico with her friends and gets wrapped up in some bad shit in Mexico.
Yeah. 3 hours into being in Mexico, it's like, the cartel took you up and they doped you up and now they're going to put you into
it's Trump's Mexico.
Yeah.
It's basically what Trump thinks Mexico
and
is.
It's like that criticism I get, honestly, because it's like, it literally, like the only people she encounters in Mexico are like cartels and I
get it, but I mean, so many action movies do that with any
I know. I think also
country
just
you can think
because
of.
Also like it's the timing of it in was happening in the States and then how they're being portrayed and stuff like that. I totally get it.
No, I get that. I didn't love that either. But I dug Rambo's. I think it's because I'm hyper focused on his character in these movies and not so much the themes and the story.
Okay.
But I liked his vulnerability in this movie. I liked that this was one of the only movies where you show Rambo goes to help somebody and literally gets almost killed and gets the shit beat out of him.
Right.
Because there's that scene where he's at the building and you think it's going to be a action movie where he takes out every cartel guy in the building, and the opposite happens.
Yeah.
They corner him and then they basically almost kill him.
Like surprised they didn't just kill him, because it's like they're like so bad guys in this movie, but it's like
so anyway, he comes back. They come after him. I didn't get a chance to rewatch it again. I've seen it a few times.
From what I remember, like real quick, it's like this girl's kind of like a niece to him, and she wants to find her father. Who Rambo knows. He's like, trust me, your father's a piece of shit. You don't want to find him. But she's like, I'm going to go anyway. Goes to Mexico, and the guy's like, what? Fuck you. I don't like you.
Yeah.
Immediately gets kidnapped by the cartel and sold into the sex trade. And then Rambo's like, hey, she doesn't come home. I better go find her. And then he like pretty quickly finds out where she is, and he rescues her.
Yeah.
But by this point, so it kind of bothered me and bummed me out too, that it's like she dies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like her only purpose of this movie is like to get tortured and doped up and die immediately just so Rambo can go. I don't know. I mean,
that happens in every horror movie.
I don't know. It bugged me in this case for whatever reason. I don't know. It just didn't sit well with me, and I didn't love it. But the cartel,
I understand.
Yeah, the cartel then is like, what the fuck? Because obviously he caused some damage down there, so they're like, let's go like to his house,
cross the border and fuck him up.
Yeah.
But little did they know that Rambo has an extensive underground tunnel system. Under his farm. But I liked their explanation of it. Is that he actually made it as kind of a place where he can go.
Right.
Where he feels protected from the world.
Yeah.
And is in an environment that his brain is used to.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought that was neat.
I was like 50-50 on that, because it's like,
the action that takes place in those tunnels at the end is awesome.
It's like Home Alone, but like extreme violence Home Alone. Like he has a giant.
But he was setting traps before Kevin McAllister was.
It's fair. It's fair. So who did it first?
So Home Alone was first blood in it.
Yeah, it's true. He has a giant farm in like Texas or something like that, right? And it's like a giant piece of land, and he has all these underground like caverns and stuff that are all booby trapped and stuff. And like one part of me is like, good thing he was digging all these for guys to show up in 2 days. But I'm also like a part like even though he seems more settled on this farm, it's like you don't just like get rid of PTSD because you're happy now.
Right.
Like he's a part of him is like never going to be okay.
And they made it look like the reason the tunnels are extensive is because he'll never stop building them.
Yeah.
Because it's an ongoing, that's his coping mechanism.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll never end, so he'll keep building them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so big action scene happens. The one thing that always bugged me is in the trailers for this, there's a shot of him in the rain on a horse in a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And when I saw that in the trailers, I was like, I want to see Rambo in a cowboy hat in the rain on a horse.
Yeah.
I really want to see that. And then it wasn't in the movie.
No.
And I'm like, damn it.
Do you know what it was from?
What?
Oh, apparently the opening scene of this movie, which they later cut, was him on a horse, because he's on a farm, so he has horses. He was helping people that were like caught in like a nearby mudslide or something like that. So it was just him helping like neighbors or something.
Been awesome.
Yeah, and then they cut it out. That's how the movie was supposed to open.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
I loved that look because it was cool. It would have been cool to see Rambo transformed into like a different thing.
Yeah, totally. That would have been neat. It's a goofy thing that like, of course he would cut his hair, but a part of me is like short hair. He just seems like a Sylvester Stallone character.
I get it.
It's kind of like John McClane and going from hair to bald. Yeah.
And Martin Riggs getting rid of the long hair. He just wasn't Martin Riggs anymore.
It didn't seem like it. So
that's why I hope if Mel actually does do another Lethal Weapon,
right,
which he's been saying for years he is going to because Richard Donner wanted him to.
Okay.
If he does it, I hope he grows the hair out a little at least.
Right.
I don't want to see short hair Martin Riggs.
No, it's a weird...
And I never liked bald John McClane.
No, it just seems like Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Willis action movie, and this just kind of seemed like a Sylvester Stallone action movie.
Yeah.
It didn't feel to me like Rambo.
Yeah.
And
I get all that.
It kind of like... I didn't hate it. I don't know.
For me, the through line through all of this is I love the character of John Rambo so much.
Right. That
from the book and through the movies, that carries me through even when they're not great.
Right.
Because I love to see Sly playing him.
I get that. And that makes sense. That makes sense.
And for me, even short-haired Rambo in this one still kind of worked for me because I think even in the silly ones, I still think Sly does a great job of playing that character.
Right.
And I don't think he ever betrayed the character.
Right. And it's fun to watch him kill all these bad guys.
Super
like, obviously,
fun.
it's like why you watch Freddy movies. You want to see him kill these people. It's like you want to watch Rambo with all of his crazy inventions and stuff and shooting bows and arrows. Well, shooting arrows. You don't shoot a bow. You fire a bow. He shoots an arrow and then throws the bow.
He shoots the bow with his gun.
Yes. That was a really weird trap.
I 100% understand everybody not liking Last Blood.
Yeah.
But my love for the character will always still make me enjoy
that makes sense. Yeah. I wish it would have ended at 4. In my brain, it does. It's kind of like
same
for me if they would have ended the Rocky series with Rocky 5.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay. Well, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
That's another series we could probably do at some point.
For
Rocky
sure.
into Creed.
Especially because I'm a huge fan of the one after, like of Rocky Balboa.
Rocky Balboa, I love.
For me, it's on par.
It's Yeah. It ain't about how hard you hit, but about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I know that whole speech. I love it. So yeah, and of course, the silliest thing to add into this, that at some point in time, somebody was like, I have a great fucking idea for Saturday morning. It's Rambo, The Force of Freedom. It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
He's going to fight with other guys.
Rambo.
Yeah. The Force of Freedom. It's crazy. And they made action figures.
Yeah.
And it's like I just watched a bit of the opening credits and it's like the same thing where it's like his like fucking muscle is like putting his arms, on his muscles and putting the knife in the thing and he's tying the fucking headband on. And it's like,
that's as ridiculous as like in 1979 making an Alien action figure.
Yeah. It's so,
it makes no sense.
It's so crazy that they did. I don't even really remember what the cartoon was about.
No,
I don't think it lasted very long at all. It's just funny that they're like, this is probably for kids, like a PTSD.
And he was originally supposed to be a G.I. Joe.
So was Rocky. I remember seeing the figure.
Oh, maybe it was Rocky.
Yeah, I think it was Rocky.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. And he had like
I wonder
some
if there's also a G.I.
glove.
Joe Rambo connection.
That also sounds like of course.
Yeah,
it should have been. And like, why not? But that also sounds familiar. Maybe it was one of those things where like they had a prototype or something because I feel like I remember seeing it. But I had Rambo toys. Like we owned Rambo toys. They sold Rambo like plastic knives.
I'm such a fanatic that NECA did a series of Rambo figures. They did a First Blood one where he had like the parka that he made out of a tarp.
Oh, cool.
And then they made a second one that had the bow and arrow and he was more musclier and everything. And he had bullet bandoliers and stuff. But none of them nailed for me the First Blood Rambo. So I actually bought a few of them and merged the accessories and changed like a head and I merged them into making the perfect
You Frankensteined him.
I did.
You are Troutman.
I'm I am. I made a figure. And he does that almost Shatner talking.
Very much. That's
very
so
Shatner.
funny. Yeah, holy shit.
Anyway, folks.
Yeah.
That's our Rambo overview.
Yeah.
I love them all. And I will always, John Rambo, the character, will always be dear, dear, dear to my heart.
Yeah.
I love his character.
Yeah. If there's like, please let us know on the socials what your favorite is or which ones you didn't like. We'd like to hear your feedback.
Yeah. But he's definitely iconic. So, that's it. Is Sly going to take us out or you got something else?
No, I think Sly's the perfect guy to take this out. It's like I did Rambo, and it was great to bring him back. And I think maybe Rhinestone could be a comeback too because...
or over the top.
Over the top, yeah. There's still a lot of people out there that could use some arm wrestling movies, that's really big right now. And so look for Over the Top 2, Rhinestone 3.
No. Let's stick with Tulsa King. He's great in Tulsa King. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in, and we'll I always say we'll see you next week. Nobody's going to see us.
No, unless you know us, you might see us.
Maybe you might see us.
We'll hear you next week.
You'll hear us next week. This is so awkward.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Keep on rambling.
Thanks for listening to The Real Ramblers. Follow us on Instagram at Real Ramblers. That's REEL Ramblers. And you can follow Lee at Lee Howard _art and Bill at justthebill1138.